how Luka Doncic's injury led to Blockbuster trade.
Luka Doncic limped off the floor with a left calf strain, an injury that unfortunately could cause him to miss significant time in the upcoming playoffs. Here, as he gets ready to step backwards, this is, of course, a position that we see players injure their Achilles all the time. But remember, the calf muscle is part of that whole Achilles tendon complex. It's sort of the same unit on the back of the lower leg. So here as Luka goes to plant with that left leg and push off, you see how he develops this stretch in the backside of that left leg. Since everybody, of course, remembers what happened with Kevin Durant, right? He was dealing with this calf strain. Who knows how things might have been connected, but then unfortunately ended up having an Achilles tendon rupture. And so this is something the Mavs are, of course, going to take extremely serious, not just thinking about Luka's availability this season, but how things could be affected down the road long term.
Because he didn't have his jersey tucked in. And Luka might have been shaken up a moment ago. Folks, he's walking. He's holding his left leg, and that's not an auspicious sign for the Dallas Mavericks. He can't even make an effort to get back on defense right now, free. Luka has been in that position, walking like that for the last 20 seconds.
And brand new member of the Lakers, Luka Doncic, suffered a strained calf muscle on Christmas and hasn't played since. Let's break this down for Lakers Nation. The injury appears to have occurred on this step back, where he uses that right leg to propel backwards to create. Bear in mind, he was already dealing with a chronic left calf muscle issue and a heel contusion prior to this play, hence the black compression sleeve he's wearing, which can provide additional stability and support during push-off and landing. Re-injuries are commonly worse than the original injuries, and we saw even 10 days after the injury, Luka was still not bearing much weight on that leg. Since he's been out for about 5 weeks and some change, it's likely he had a moderate to potentially severe grade 2 injury. Grade 2 on average take about 4 to 8 weeks with an elevated re-injury risk for about 12 weeks. And they do come with a mildly increased risk for Achilles injury. Like, it would be smart to manage this conservatively so he could be at his best if we're making a playoff run, pushing him a safe and speedy recovery.
Unless you've been under a rock, you know Luka Doncic got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers in what is still a bizarre trade.
That just happened about 5 minutes ago. Multiple sources saying the Mavericks are trading Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick.
Shams just dropped it, and we all thought, nah, he must have gotten sent-tailed, or, this is a Boss Axe report. If you've been following the NBA, you know the Mavs have had talks about Luka. He's injury-prone. He's out of shape. All sorts of things. In fact, if you guys remember, Brian Windhorst went on a long tirade about the Mavs not being comfortable with, Luka getting injured and coming in out of shape and all sorts of things. Everyone kind of thought, like, what the hell is Brian Windhorst on about?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect that Luka fell onto the ground there in an unacceptable position to put himself in with 4 minutes left with 5 fouls, and then immediately looks at the bench and says, you better bleeping challenge it, as if it's the bench's fault that he just made a terrible play. I'm standing here in the Mavericks tunnel. Over there is the Celtics tunnel. That's where the winners are. If Luka's ever going to be a winner coming out of this tunnel here, he is going to have to use what's happened in this finals as a learning experience. His defensive performance is unacceptable. He is a hole on the court. The Celtics are attacking him. They are ahead in this series because they have attacked him defensively. And you've got a situation here where Luka is complaining about the officiating. They have begged him. They have talked with him. They have pleaded with him. He is costing his team because of how he treats the officials. He's a brilliant player. He does so many things well. They are here because of how he did. His performance in this game is unacceptable, and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win. He's got to get over this. And the fact that he came out after the game and blamed the officials showed me he's nowhere close yet. So maybe over the summer, somebody will get to him, because nobody with the Mavericks or anybody else in his life has. And that's where the Mavericks are at this point. They're never going to get to this tunnel with the trophy if he doesn't improve those aspects of his game.
The Mavs were on a run in the playoffs, and here he is talking about Luka and, the Mavs questioning his commitment to the franchise. So now that looks a little different, right? You pair that with, you guys remember when Jay Kidd was being asked if he thought the Celtics were taking advantage of Luka defensively.
I'd like to see him on the defensive side of things, but he's the one that Boston's hunting and all these switches, and they're putting him in all foul actions and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he is definitely got a bullseye on his chest, and so he's gonna be able to guard and understand that we're there to protect him and help him if he does get beat. But again, he's carrying the load offensively, and they are putting in every pick and roll and ISO, and so he's got to be able to play the game where he can rest on offense and let others carry the load.
Hey, kid, instead of protecting his player, Luka Doncic, their generational player. Luka is one of the greatest players in the league right now that might go down as one of the greatest players of all time, right? That's what he's on track to do. Instead of protecting Luka, he basically said, yeah, they should be hunting him. And, it made sense to him. And he was basically like throwing Luka under the bus and saying that he was bad defensively. And he had no problem saying. And then you pair that with Luka celebrating a trip to the NBA Finals by having a beer. And, they're taking the beer from him, like as if to say, like, this is not what you should be doing. Bruce? Like, we know you should not be drinking. You should not be eating. You should not be doing anything other than, working out and trying to get that weight down. And so we saw all of these inklings. We've seen this, kind of developing, right? But what I actually want to talk about is the injury that led to this trade, in my opinion, is far worse than a lot of people believe. Luka could be in some trouble here. This is an injury that leads to many more injuries. And this is an injury that in the time span of 12 months has a high chance of, occurring again. You might injure that same calf again, but more likely this injury leads to an Achilles tear, which is horrible in any sport, but basketball in particular. An Achilles tear is absolutely horrible, right? When it's a player that is generally in shape at all times, it's like they'll be back in 8 to 9 months and, they're in great shape. So maybe they'll bounce back. But if the player is not in great shape, it could completely derail their career. And so, in my opinion, I believe the Dallas Mavericks do not believe Luka Doncic will stay healthy over the next, decade or so or whatever. Like, he's 25 years old. For them to make this trade means they have given up on their cornerstone, their franchise player, a generational talent in Luka Doncic. And they probably believe that he cannot stay healthy for the next decade or so, and that he's going to re-injure this calf. He's going to get an Achilles tear or, have a hard time coming back from it because of his conditioning issues. That's what I believe. Having said all of this, I am hoping that this is, does not come to fruition, and Luka doesn't have this injury derail his career. I think Luka is a generational talent and could go down as one of the greatest players in NBA history. And I hope he bounces back from this injury. He proves the Dallas Mavericks wrong, and he has an incredible career. That's what I'm hoping. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe, share. I appreciate it. Peace.